This video will describe how to set up a table of features in a structural adjustment rule. In the previous video, we set up this rule that has a table of new translations. There's a number of concepts in the input structure, and then in the output structure, each of those concepts gets a new translation from a table. We can see that table by clicking here. So here are the concepts, here are the new translations. In this video, we're going to set up a similar rule, but instead of a new translation, it will be setting up features. And I'd like to show you an example. Here, when we add new features, for example, adverbial clause type. So there's a rule in the background, and this is the type of rule we're going to set up in this video. So we have multiple features in the input structure, and then when we look in the output structure, so here are the multiple concepts. Then in the output, whenever there's a concept, one of these concepts in a verse that's being translated, the adverbial clause type feature on the clause will be set to one of these values. So we also use this type of rule here for the verb to be. So we have many different senses of the verb to be here in the input, here in the output. Depending on the sense of be, we specify the stative clause type. So we'll set up one of these rules so that you can use them in your grammar as well. Let's begin by creating a new rule. This will be triggered by add positions. We'll give it a name. And in the input structure, we want to put a preposition, an add position. And now we'll add more prepositions to this one. And we'll again use the search option. So it copies over the input structure. We'll search Genesis 1:1 through Exodus 25:40 to find the add positions that occur at clause levels. Notice there is no noun phrase around this add position. This add position is occurring at the clause level. So we'll do the search. And these are the prepositions that were found. So let's select all of them. And we'll copy all of them down to the selected table. So now we have numerous concepts in the input structure. And now, when we go to the output structure, we can say features. And we'll click on the clause boundary, and it says at least one word in the input structure has multiple concepts listed. Do you want to set up a table so that you can specify different features for different concepts? We'll say yes. So here's one concept. It starts with just one row. And we'll set the adverbial clause type. This will be temporal after. Then we can say add row, and we'll select another one. Let's say before. This will again be temporal, before. Add another row. In this verse, we have when sensei. Now our other rule that I just showed you a minute ago, that will set it to a temporal. Let's set it to a new value, just so you know this rule is actually doing something. Okay? And we can keep adding rows. Let's add one for if. That will be a conditional if sensei, etc. So you can build your table like this. And now let's execute this rule in this verse. So here's when, and here if we rest our cursor, we can see that the adverbial clause type went from not an adverbial clause to temporal by the feature adjustment rules, and then later the adverbial clause type was changed again from temporal to comparison by the structural adjustment rule BBB, the one we just talked about. So That's how you can set up a table of features. You add multiple concepts in the input structure, and then in the output structure you specify features, and it will always ask you, do you want to set up a table? And you can say yes. Then you can add more rows. Let's do another if sense B. That will be a hypothetical, etc.